It is now 7:20. You guys, thank you for tuning in. It is Thursday, and we're in for a very interesting conversation. As you all know, my name is Arlene J. Ramsey, and the name of my show is called Everyone Let's Talk. Today, we're going to discuss my thoughts that domestic violence abusers should sign up for registry the same way as sexual offenders has to list themselves on a registry, so should domestic violence abusers. Now, be clear, when I discuss or talk about domestic violence abusers, does not only pertain to men, this pertains to women as well. I'm going to go in a bit on why I believe the focus is on men more than it is on women. And that is because in these cases, oftentimes women and children are end up losing their lives or badly physically hurt, or women are you know disparaged or badly psychologically abused to where she cannot take care of herself and take care of her children, or she needs help to have people pitch in and get her to a safe house and get her someplace safe. And oftentimes, when people chime in to help, those said people are in jeopardy of losing their lives as well. And I do believe that that's why we focus on men more than we do women, or we don't believe that women are capable of committing domestic violence. But domestic violence looks different when it is done by women. Women abuse their male partners as well, and it's in the form of psychological and verbal abuse, whereas when they abuse the children, it is in the form of physical abuse and sometimes allowing their children to endure sexual abuse. Okay, there are some people who may challenge the fact that they don't think that we should have a registry for domestic violence because somehow they believe that even men that may, or people, mostly men, that commit one act of violence may end up on the registry. I truly believe that in order for you, an individual, to be listed or recommended for a registry, these would be individuals that have a history of domestic violence, right? I tried to use the broadcaster to show a video, but in order for me to download a video from YouTube, I have to subscribe to their YouTube channel. I forget the name, but which you have to pay $15.99 a month. It's not much. However, I just am not ready to pay that to download one video because I don't download much videos. However, there are tons of examples of people, predominantly men, who are offenders of domestic violence. And if you study psychology or study any type of personality disorder, then you would know that when you watch the documentary or the documentaries, you would see that the men are void of compassion, remorse, or empathy. Sometimes it seems as if they are happy or they get joy recalling or remembering the chain of events or what led them to such violence, or whether the woman is alive or the woman is no longer here. In the said documentary, there was a woman who discussed that she was in the shower,
Man, it's
taking a
always
bath.
a fucking problem with this damn phone. Oh, I'm
Godfrey, I
sorry.
think that's
I'm
okay. Yeah, that's okay. On the documentary, the woman, she recalls her experience, and I believe that maybe her and her husband or significant other got into an argument, and the argument has ceased. So now she's in the shower, and her clothes is off, and she's in her tub, soaking in the tub. And while she's soaking, her husband came in there with the gun and shot her 3 times and said, "Look what you made me do." Well, that woman is now paralyzed. So When you watch the documentary, you will see that some of these acts were calculated. It's understandable if sometimes a person snap and they get in a split second sense of rage where they lose all senses and then they rage into violence. But in many cases, this is not the the point. Oftentimes, these men are actually calm and they're calculated in their anger, and their rage is also calculated. It's controlled rage. In that those are clear signs that they are calculated, and those are clear signs that many of these people who are domestic violence offenders are actually wired. They're hardwired that way. Now, I watch enough documentaries and I've read enough to know that we're still not getting to the crux of the problem. And people are thinking that the men have suffered abuse and this is why they are the way they are. And I'm one to tell you that abuse does not make a person cruel. I know that there's a saying that hurt people, but it is extremely important that we also understand that that quote or that saying came out when people also did not have enough information. Like anything, studies and new finds continue to happen. And for the people who are in the work of updated information, they have learned that it is not the case of hurt people. However, it is the case of nature, right? Some people believe that it is nurtured. I am a person that believes that it is more nature than it is nurture because abusers cannot be reformed via therapy. Even when they go through psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, rational emotive behavioral therapy, EMDR, it doesn't matter the type or structure of therapy that is used to help these men reform, it does not work. And the reason why therapy cannot work on some people is because some people are actually born that way. We cannot change who we are. That is how we are hardwired. I truly believe that the only way that these things can be changed is if there's some type of surgery that can happen to where neuroscientists can go in and manually rewire a person's brain. And all that means is the section of the brain that controls the emotions, the empathy, the feelings, the compassion, that aspect of the brain needs to be ignited. And without that part of a person's brain ignited, an individual is more animalistic. They're more predatory in nature. I saw on TikTok. Now I know many people don't like social media, and I always say that social media is a tool, and it depends on what you are interested in. And since I am interested in education, learning new things, and discovering what's out there besides just having a good time, I often get some pretty interesting videos that come down my feed. So last week, uh, a woman was talking about how abusers desensitize your dog. Now, I want you to understand, I want you to really zone into what I said. How abusers will desensitize your dog. That means, many people have dogs as protectors and watchers of the home. And then you have some people that have the little cute lap dog. I'm not talking about the little cute lap dog. Those are not protectors. We're talking about dogs that are protectors, like your cane corsos and your Rottweilers and German shepherds and pit bulls. These types of dogs are, Maverick, the Staffordshires. These types of dogs that are protectors. I've seen the video. Now, the woman has, her neighbor across from her has a camera, but as the woman in the video was explaining, that you can tell that the person's camera is inside of the apartment above the keyhole. So the person who is doing this to the neighbor's dog does not see that the neighbor across from that apartment has a camera. Many ring cameras or cameras, cameras, uh, for the doorbell on the outside of the door. So if a person sees that there's a camera on the outside, they're going to be careful. They're not going to do things that seem suspicious. This gentleman did not realize that he was being recorded. And what he would do in the video, you would see him, he would wait till the woman is not home. First and foremost, the woman is not home. And what he does is he walks to the apartment, knock on the door 3 times, bang, 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 and walk away. And then he comes back, bang, 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 walk away. He does that. When I saw that video, you have no idea of how livid I've become. Because now this dog is going to bark because there's a strange person knocking at the door, but he moves away from the door. And he continues to do this over time until he wears the dog out. Now the dog is tired and the dog is used to this knock at the door that doesn't seem like a threat. So it stops barking. Right? So now, of course, the video did not continue because this is something that happens over time. And the woman was actually just teaching her audience at the time. But I brought this up as a reason why abusers should be registered. There should be a domestic violence registry for abusers, because when society gives abusers excuses and think that they are that way because of trauma, or they're that way because the partner ticked them off or something happened that caused them to commit these acts of violence, I will assure you that that's not the case. I will assure you that they are naturally predatory and they actually calculate circumstances in which they can be successful at abusing up to murdering their victims. And unfortunately, because there's no tag on them, like when we go buy clothes and we read the tag, or when we buy food and we can read what the ingredients in an item before we buy it, that's not the case when it comes to human beings. And oftentimes we don't realize who we are involved with until we're in a situation where we recognize, later on down the line, you recognize that this is actually abuse. If you notice, when there are discussions or arguments, or, people are trying to get to the bottom of why this abuse is happening, oftentimes abusers do not have responses that make sense at all. They have no response, or sometimes their response actually feed off of what you actually say because they don't know what to say. In their mind, they know that they're naturally wicked. They know that they're cruel. They also can't explain why they're born this way and why they're that way, right? So that they're torn themselves. They don't understand that as a human being, why is it that they are this way? But they know that they are in fact this way, and there is a spiritual need to do these types of acts to other human beings. But they cannot reveal themselves, because if they reveal themselves, then people will learn how to protect themselves from abusers. And when you learn how to protect yourself from an abuser, that makes the hunt for them even more challenging. These abusers don't want they don't want to work hard for victims. They don't, right? Hence, my stance is that not just in the United States, and what made me have this show today is I think it's in Florida. The state of Florida has introduced that a domestic violence registry, and I said all states throughout this nation We need to have a registry for domestic violence. I don't know if I can share my screen just yet. Let me try. But I want to read some statistics to you all, right? Um, let's see. Okay. So I typed up on Google, how does domestic violence affect black women in comparison to women of other races? And black women, so let me go on and read the statistics. Black women experience domestic violence at significantly higher rates and with more severe outcomes than white women and women of most other races, facing a lifetime physical and sexual abuse prevalence of over 45% to 53% and being roughly 2.5 times more likely to be killed by an intimate partner. Prevalence and lethality comparison. Overall rates approximately 45.1% to 53.6% of black women experience intimate partner physical violence, severe physical abuse, rape and or stalking in their lifetimes, compared to roughly 48.4% of white women and 42.1% of Hispanic women. Homicide risk. Black women face an intimate partner homicide rate more than double that of white women, with over 51% of all black female homicides directly linked to intimate partner violence. Psychological and physical aggression. Studies indicate that black women experience higher documented frequencies of severe physical trauma and psychological aggression, such as coercive control and shaming, per victimized individual than their white or Hispanic counterparts. Systemic and social barriers to safety, reluctance to involve police, historical and ongoing mistreatment of black communities by law enforcement leads many black women to distrust the police, reducing their willingness to call for emergency help or report abusers. Community and cultural stigma. Survivors often face intense pressure from within their own communities to protect black men from systemic racism and the criminal justice system, which can override addressing the abuse they endure at home. Economic inequity. Persistent wealth gaps, lower average pay, and housing discrimination leave black women with fewer independent financial resources or safe housing alternatives to successfully leave an abusive partner. Let me go back to my screen. How do I go back? Okay. So, in that, I've just read some statistics in regards to how domestic violence affect black women in comparison to women of other races and nationalities. I do take into account that of our history and what our history and what racism has done to us as a people. We must take that into account, right? That would be the reason why black women are affected in larger numbers and percentage from domestic violence in comparison to women of other nationalities. And also because our communities are divided, we don't have as much support as we should have, or as women from other communities and nationalities do have, right? Now, this is not a call to pit black women against black men or black men against black women. As I've stated earlier, black women are equally as abusive as black men, but black men, it does not resort or result in black men losing their lives. Oftentimes, it results in black men maybe losing their livelihoods, their jobs, their finances, their homes, right? And the things that we do not take into account or may be reluctant to take into account is the factor of mental health. And when mental health is discussed, I think mental health it's a language of its own. It's more than an umbrella. But when we think about mental health, the thought process of healing is attached to mental health. What I would like us to understand is that not all aspects of mental health has an attachment or a need for healing. Healing is not going to healing is not a factor. There's no trauma that is the cause of it. Hence, healing is not a factor. When we get good and ready with understanding that some people are just born with an evil gene, we will understand why domestic violence is so prevalent as it is. The hardest thing to do is to accept and understand that some people are just evil. And in that, because they're predatory, they are abusive, right? Um, I kind of use the correlation to nature. With nature, we all know who the predators are in nature. The animals are different from those who are considered to be prey. Therefore, there is a distinct look to the predators versus the prey. In humanity, when we deal with humans, there's not a distinct look in human beings. We have men and we have women and we have different types of people, right? Getting educated in psychology. Now, of course, you don't have to go to college to learn psychology, but I would recommend that we start reading some books, that we start listening to some YouTube videos, right, to learn different aspects of personality disorders. There's a gentleman and that video is another video that I wanted to present, where this gentleman has been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and I think he said psychopathy. Now, this is a gentleman that is born that way, and he has been this way ever since he's known himself. What made him decide to go get assessed by a therapist was he fell into depression at one point because he lost all his friends and he realized that he was always having problems with other people, and he couldn't understand why he was always having problems with people until he went and got assessed by a psychotherapist, and then he learned that he has narcissistic personality disorder and psychopathy. And in his interview, he said that he actually stay away from people because now that he knows that about himself, he is clear that when he's around people, he can see opportunities to take advantage of people. He always can find an opportunity to take advantage of another human being. So in order for him to not take advantage of people, he does his due diligence by staying away from people. Now I can respect that, and this was a brother. That interview came out years ago. I saw it years ago. He looked like he was about 28, 29 years old, right? And what I like about him was that he held himself accountable and understood that in order for him to not have problems with society, he has to stay away from groups of people as much as possible. Now, that's a sad existence and a challenging way to live. But why I appreciate his accountability is because he understood that taking advantage of people was wrong. However, He understood that he could not be reformed. Therapy cannot help him. And anytime he's around people, he can see opportunities on when and how to take advantage of people. So it's important to understand mental health because it's a doorway to even how we think. How we think is a huge factor in what we do, how we engage with people, how we treat other human beings, right? Now, choosing to stay away from people is hard, but he knows that he cannot be reformed. And anytime he's around people, he's going to take advantage. That is like putting a tiger around other prey. And I use tigers or something else. They're going to swipe at something whether they're hungry or not. Let's say a lion. Lions are leopards, right? If they're not hungry, they're not going to come for you. But the moment they get hungry, and there's prey around them, they're going to hunt something, and you can't stop them from doing it. Even when they have these wild animals in the zoo, they still have to feed them raw meat. They can't feed them cat food out of the bag, the same food that you feed your cat in the house. No, they have to give them raw meat because that's what they eat and that's what they are. The sooner we understand that, the better we would be at protecting ourselves from predatory people, right? Some people will challenge the fact that, all right, well, some women involve themselves with men that are on the sex abuse registry. The challenge with people, and like I said again, some women are just as predatory as men. But the challenge with that is a man that's on a sexual abuse registry will often more likely sexually abuse a child. So a woman of involving herself with a man that's on the registry, she doesn't see him as a threat. It's unfortunate that she would put her children in jeopardy, but she doesn't see him as a threat to her persons. So to her, he's safe for her to be involved with. But I guarantee you, when a woman knows that a man is on a registry for domestic violence and there's a long rap sheet, 14 years, 13, the history of this man dating, that every woman he has dated, he has a domestic violence history with, more than likely, women will stay away from that type of man. Now, it is unfortunate for that type of man because it'll be challenging for him to find relationships. However, predatory people are in relationships for the purpose of their own personal purpose. It is not for the other person. So therefore, it is extremely insidious for the other person to be in relations with abusive people, right? And we're not here, or we should not be here, to have empathy for abusers. It is okay for them to get on a registry so that we know who they are, so that we know to stay away from them. And I call this for women as well, because I truly believe that violent women, abusive women, should not be allowed to raise their children. The stories that children have by being raised by abusive mothers, no amount of therapy can erase that. Does anyone have any questions or statements before I continue on?
Yes. This was hard to listen to from the time that I came in, especially when you said you would be for lobotomizing people.
Especially when I said...
Based on what?
Let me
I don't know. Yeah. You said let you do something?
Okay, you said I said what now?
You said that you would be for lobotomizing people. Having some idiot with letters behind his name go into their brain to rewire their brain. I couldn't believe that you were saying something like that, but you were saying it,
Oh,
and so that's your belief, which of course I would beg to differ. Uh, Abusive people be on the registry. Now, even the sexual registry, okay, is an extension of a sentence. See, in this country, supposedly, when you go to trial, if you're convicted, there's time that they want from you. Well, it's all civil. But there comes a time that you have paid your debt to society. By putting people on a registry, you are making that debt a lifelong sentence, whether it be a sexual registry or an abusive registry or failure to wear a seatbelt registry, whatever. And man, who's watching the watcher? I'm sorry. This was rough to hear you tonight. Abusive. What is abuse? What
okay.
you term abuse and what I term abuse may be two separate things. Because if you truly believe in the Creator, God, and you think that God blesses people with children, if He blessed a mother to have a child, who is man to come and say that she's not fit to raise that child? And
Okay.
epigenetics, you mentioned epigenetics without using the words.
Mhm.
Because you said people being born like that. I
Mhm.
often speak of the beastly nature of Europeans, demonstrated before they left Europa, and everywhere that they go, it comes out. Should they all be on registries? Because they're beasts. Okay? That's why they stole the land here. And with that, I have to yield because there has to be other people to come in. So I yield.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comment, Joffrey. When I talked about the surgery, there was something that came out a couple of years ago where it is in conversations for criminals that if they volunteer for to sign up for a particular type of surgery that will be done by a neuroscientist. So someone that's a neuroscientist is a person that studies. They went to school to study the brain, and they study how the brain actually functions, right? So therefore, they understand the part of the brain that actually controls our compassion and empathy. People who are have narcissistic personality disorder, triad, dark tetrad, people who are psychopaths do not have empathy. They do not have compassion. That section of the brain does not function. And when that section of the brain does not function, they cannot have empathy or compassion for another human being. Hence, it leads them to doing terrible things to other human beings, right? That is facts. That is the truth. So that is something that is on the table that is being discussed. There's not a law that has been passed yet, but if the law is passed to where they can rewire the person's brain will be rewired to where the part of their brain that controls empathy and all of these functions such as love and compassion and closeness, collaboration, that part of the brain, they can activate that part of the brain. When that part of our brains are activated, we will be reluctant to just harm other human beings. That those are facts. Those are scientific facts. So these are conversations that are had. So what they're basically saying is they understand that the person who was born that way cannot help that they are doing things like murdering people and abusing people. But what they can do is erase your entire criminal record if you sign up for this study. Now, that is something on the table. It is not a law that is passed, and I'm not sure if they will ever pass the law. However, those types of conversations are happening, hence why I mentioned that. So it's a prevalent thing because what we're looking at is people that are actually doing heinous acts towards other human beings. And it is challenging to stop it. Every other day, we're seeing another woman lost her life to domestic violence. And there's not enough outrage for that. So I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is women or children are suffering from this type of act. Now, the other thing that you mentioned, if God bless a woman to have children, who is mankind to say that that woman is just, is not fit to raise a child? My mother, she didn't raise my sister and I, but my grandmother did, and I found that my grandmother was not fit. You have no idea of the type of abuse that I've experienced. The sodomy by my uncle, which is her youngest son. The physical abuse by her, the psychological abuse by her not wanting me to thrive, trying to tell me I'm stupid, wanting me to believe that I'm stupid because she envied my independence and ability to move along and be resourceful in this world. I find that a woman like that is not fit to raise children. They destroy their own lineage. Women that are histrionic personality disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, psychopathy, they are in secret competition with their daughters. And the daughter that they think has the godlike light is forever abused. There's forever a destiny swap. There's forever a smear campaign against this one child where the entire family disrespects this child throughout this child's life. Those are things that needs to be studied, because do you understand what kind of life it is to live as a scapegoat of your own family where you don't have support?
I wouldn't know personally.
And that's my experience. You understand? It is a horrible experience to not have support and to have a family, even your younger relatives not respecting you because they have been groomed to treat you as the human trash can. In my opinion, an individual like that should not be raising children. Okay, because that causes all kinds of problems. You know how much children who became adults who were the scapegoat of their families, who, because of the years of abuse, they turn to drugs to escape. Some of them commit suicide. I mean, the conversation in that department is endless, to where we can have that discussion at a later time. But in regards to the registry, when you have people where they are hardwired to be predatory, where the part of their brain that controls empathy, compassion, love, and so on is not activated, the people like this are forever abusing and victimizing other people. So remember, as I said earlier, these are people that have a long history of abusing people, where every person they were involved with, there was domestic calls, police involved, about this individual. People like that should be on a registry. And it's not that we're prolonging their sentence, but it is that we're letting people in society know that this person is dangerous. Now, if you want to involve yourself with this person, you cannot say that you don't know that they are on a domestic violence registry. And
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
No.
One last thing. If the person is on a domestic violence registry, now we understand who the challenge is. Oftentimes, women are not believed even when they call the police for help. How many times have women tried to get restraining orders against men and they don't grant women restraining orders? You know how many times that women have tried to get a restraining order while they're actively being abused by their partners and they cannot get a restraining order? How many men have been arrested, they have a restraining order, they come out of jail, and they still murder that woman with an active restraining order in place? The video that I wanted you guys to listen to, there was a gentleman that it sounded like he was gloating, where he says a restraining order is a piece of paper. It wasn't going to stop him. Many of them think that way. So I believe that we need to have a registry. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm agreeing to where people are mentally disturbed. Family give up they only loved ones to where that person will actually, when they trying to hide from the person that is stalking them, they will actually tell them where they are at.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And that is because you have family members with these personality disorders as well. So when you think about predators and people that are your opposition, it is not just people that are not family who are outside of your household. It's people that is also in your household. How many times have we discussed spiritual warfare? This is a spiritual warfare. Just like we believe in God, but don't we know that the devil exists? The devil doesn't exist by itself. That type of energy also has people living here on earth that is a reflection of that same type of energy.
Me personally,
agree with
you
you
just
on
said
that
it.
point.
Oh, go right ahead, Mr.
Oh,
Johnson.
Latoya, go ahead. I thought you had rested.
Okay. I just believe that you got to remove yourself, and mentally disturbed people, they do exist, and they do need to be registered, and they need to be behind jail. And Mr. Johnson, you can come right ahead.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You asked the question, how many? How many what? We don't know how many women have tried to get a restraining order and couldn't. What we hear is that women get these restraining orders against men, having them thrown out of their houses. And not every man moves in with a woman. Oftentimes, he brings the woman into his home, and then she can go and get a restraining order and have him thrown out of his home. And he's supposed to like that, because people who study psychology and think that they have some ulterior or ultra understanding say that if he gets angry and he goes to do something about his home being stolen, that he's abusive. Well, what about him? The system has on him.
Joffrey, I understand what you're saying. So you're talking about just regular disputes. And like I said again, there are some women who are abusive. So there are some women who will do just like that, where they will provoke their man to violence where he's not a violent person. And then when he becomes violent, she called the cops and pretends to be the victim and get him thrown out. That's not what I'm talking about. This entire show, and so here's where deductive reasoning is extremely important. Remember, my entire premise of this show is to discuss men that have a history of domestic violence. So the man who was with a provoking and antagonistic woman is not going to behave the same with when he's involved with a loving woman, right? Provoking.
How do you know how a man is going to react, sis?
Because
I'm sorry, Arlene.
listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. A person that's antagonistic and provoking. Do you know what antagonistic means? And provoking means?
Of course, yes, I do. Yes,
Okay,
I do.
so
I experienced
wait,
it.
stop right
so
there.
I understand what it means.
Listen to me, Joffrey. Stop right there. A person who is provoking and antagonistic is going to provoke you to a state of violence. That does not make you a violent person. What I am saying is the man who was involved with an antagonistic woman is not going to be the same as if he's involved with a loving and balanced woman, because loving people do not provoke you to violence. And if you're not naturally a violent person, you're not going to get violent. But when people are antagonistic and provoking, they provoke that side out of you. We all have a killer instinct in us. So when we get provoked, that tells our nervous system that we are under attack. When we feel and think that we're under attack, then that's when people start to react, right? So that's what happens when you're dealing with an antagonistic person. What I am talking about is a man who is violent throughout all his years of having a relationship. Those are the type of people that belongs on a registry. He is violent with every person that he's with, and it's not just regular violence, not just arguing and yelling. We're talking about coercive control. We're talking about choking people until they pass out and use the bathroom on themselves. We're talking about punching people in their faces, breaking their nose, seeing blood, drawing a knife to someone, cutting people, threatening to take someone's life. These are different things that we have to look at. That you have to say to yourself, does the crime warrant the punishment? Meaning, whatever it is that the person has done, does it warrant this type of reaction? And oftentimes the answer is no when you're dealing with abusive people, and that is because many of them have personality disorders. And like I said again, these people with antisocial personality disorders are incapable of having empathy. And empathy means that you have the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Compassion means that you have the ability to help a person in time of hardship and need. When you see someone in pain, hurting, and struggling, you will step up to aid that person with some type of resources, whether it's a number, whether you drive them here, there, and a third, whether you help them with a listening ear. That's compassion. People with antisocial personality disorders have a void of that. These things that I'm saying are actual scientific facts. When it is scientific facts, so it is not saying that I think that I know so much and I think that they should just be this, that, and the third. What I am saying is that evidence continues to back up my claims. And when you have people that have a history of being violent and doing certain things that does not fit the crime, that those are signs that these people can actually take lives. They should be on a registry. We need to know who they are. And when we know who they are, we know to stay away from them. How many people? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I want to keep my mouth shut, but you mentioned,
yes,
you made me do this. You mentioned that.
I mentioned that
you made me do this.
That's what I said. That the man said, wait, that's what I meant. Said that the man told the woman in the domestic violence video when she was when she was in the bathtub soaking, she was taking a bath. Her clothes was off.
Regardless, he killed her. He killed her.
No, he didn't kill her.
No matter what she was doing at the time. Okay, he maimed her.
He shot her.
He maimed her.
But she's paralyzed.
Right. And he said, you made me do this.
Right.
But now you're saying that sometimes people are pushed over the edge. See?
No.
Because you only saw the video from what point it was shown.
Joffrey,
you don't know what has been going on the whole time.
This is what I do know, Joffrey. This is what I do know. I find that people have too much excuses for bad behavior. That's full stop. Let me tell you something. I don't reward bad behavior at all. All capital letters and full stop. I said, when it comes to certain behavior, okay, let's use that you brought up. Obviously, they had an argument before, and the argument was not discussed. If you had an argument with someone before, and you're no longer arguing with them, you know how much time it takes to run bath water and stop it up for the water in the tub to fill up, for you to take off your clothes and you be soaking in the tub and relaxing, for someone to come in there with a gun and shoot you 3 times? It has to take at least 10 minutes. You no, listen to me. You mean to tell me that from your last argument, 5, 10 minutes go by and their person is soaking in the tub and you still go in there and shoot them with a gun 3 times while they're soaking in the tub? That's not the same as someone provoking you and you get split second mad into us right then and there. When you go into a fit of rage at the moment and you do something right then and there at the moment. But the difference between a person who does something at the snap of a finger right then and there versus the other person who's just abusive is one man has has a history of abusing every person that he's in a relationship with, and it's not just the people he's in a relationship with. You will have that people like that abuse their family members. There's other people such as friends and people they work with. The person has a history of doing sacrilegious things to other people. People like that belong on a registry. The person that got pissed off one time and did something one time with no other history of violence does not belong on a registry. This is why I clearly said that for the people who have, this is the word is called history. If you have a history of being violent and doing things like that to other people, you belong on a registry. I'm trying to understand this is why is it this is I use the words that I use to make it extremely clear as to why I'm saying what I'm saying. This is why I also believe that people are programmed to not wanting to hold wrongdoers accountable because we have too many reasons and excuses why they do what they do.
Why
Even
don't we why don't we kill Caucasians like they kill us? They get away with it. We won't get away with it. But I have to back off, but I'm going to ask one rhetorical question.
yes, sir.
How long does it take for somebody to go get a gun, put a bullet in the chamber, put the gun in their mouth, and blow their brains out because they are so upset with what had gone on with a loving partner? And I yield.
Okay, so for that you mentioned is not a person that has a history of abuse, right? And for a person to do that, where they get to the point of committing suicide, best believe that that wasn't their first time thinking about suicide. In that, that goes back to what I said as well, that women belong on the registry as well. Because that also meant that the man is involved with an abusive person. And it's to the point where if you're psychologically abused and you think that you're the problem, but you can't find a solution to the problem because the abusers won't tell you that you're not the problem, but they will make you think that you're the problem, that can cause a person to feel despondent and feel like there's no reason for them to live. And in that, people have committed suicide. That's via narcissistic abuse. There's conversations about that as well, where narcissistic abuse, we should not call that suicide. It should be called homicide, because a lot of people have been driven to take their own life. Meanwhile, they're being abused by people that have a history of doing abusive things to other people. It goes back to what I said again. If you have a history, and it's not just in relationships, workplace bullying. Do you know the statistics of workplace bullying, where you have people like that that's on the job, where they single out the person that's the star employee. This is the person, the employee that's great at what they do. They rarely make mistakes. The boss refers to this employee for what they bring to the table, and then you have somebody else that's envious that you are as great as you are, and next thing you know, they are spreading rumors about you, smearing your name, and they're getting in other employees a part of their plot. So now every day they make your life at that job hell. You know how many employees have had nervous breakdowns on the job because of workplace bullying? They've gotten fired from their jobs, and then you become homeless because sometimes they can't find another job depending on their age. It is not just in relationships. We're talking about people that have no ability to have empathy and compassion for other human beings.
Mm.
Therefore, they target certain people and they become your nemesis. Oftentimes, people in relationships, intimate partner relationships, they seek people that are very promising. They don't want people that are not doing great things. If you notice, a lot of people in abusive relationships, they had a history before they involved themselves with an abusive person. They had a history of doing great things in their community. The family talk, say what kind of person they are, the things that they've been doing to help their community. They get involved with this person, and all of a sudden they lose everything that they've worked so hard for, and they become somebody that they don't even know. When that happens, it is because someone is feeding off of your energy and abusing you at home. But because this person is not on a registry and they pretend to be somebody that they're not, the person don't realize that they're involving themselves with a predatory individual, right? And so I'm not here to have empathy for people who don't have empathy for humanity. And I'm not saying that we should abuse them, but having them go on a registry, that's not physically abusing them, and that's not putting them in jail. It has their information on the registry. That means that before you get into a relationship with an individual, you should be able to type their name up on Google or whatever and see what's going on with this individual. Is this somebody that I should be involved with? We do that with food. We do that with cars. We don't just go and buy a car. We go and look up the reviews and we, investigate what kind of car we want. If we say we want a nice fur coat, we don't just go and buy one. We go and we do our due diligence on these types of things. And I want to know, why is it a problem when this kind of conversation comes up about human beings? When human beings, people lose their lives in relationships.
Permission to speak?
Sure.
Hi, how are you? I've been listening. This is a great, 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 great conversation, great information. I want to just thank you for just sharing it on your podcast. Some things I've heard Mr. Joffrey say, some things I know you have said, and I know your statistics and what you have researched. I do believe that people that do offenses that you say they should be on a registry. I know people who have been in abusive relationships and they continue to be, that same person continue to abuse everybody that they've been in contact with.
Exactly.
I do believe that if there's a sex offender in my community, I want to know about it. I know it has happened. I have family members who have sexually abused people. Yes, they should be on a registry. I don't feel sorry for them. They got a problem. They won't get help. They need help. They need to go get situations handled. But then they'll move. They'll go to another state or live somewhere else and do it to someone else. Yes, they should be on the registry. I do believe that. But I just want to say great contact, great information that you gave, and people need to be on. Humans, like you said, human life. It should be. You can't make excuses. People are, yes, there are some parents that are mean and evil that do stuff to their children that is not of a parental nature.
Right.
Um, and it should be reported. There's no way some kids should be starving, locked up in basements, in rooms, that
Right.
they malnutrition, that they're starving. Their parents should be reported. Their
Right.
whoever, grandparents, parents should be reported. I know sometimes it's done generational curses, as they say, but it
Right.
needs to stop. It
Right.
does need to stop. And
Right.
I rest on that information.
And I thank you for that. And I love how you came in powerful, because that's what I'm saying. And it's not, Joffrey, we're not just picking on men. we're talking about predatory people because both men and women are equally predatory. It is not just men. Again, why the focus is on men is because men are the ones that are actually killing people. So people focus on the threat to physical life, and they're not seeing all of life. So this is why the hysteria is centered on men, because they have the strength to physically take someone out. What was it? 2 months or so ago, a young woman, she was in an abusive relationship, and she called her brothers. Her brothers were born on the same day, 5 years apart, young boys, and they came to save their sister, look out for their sister, and the boyfriend shot and killed both of them. He didn't kill her, but he shot and killed her brother. Huh? How many times have fathers and other people stepped in where these types of men have killed or murdered other family members? Right? So that's why they belong on a registry. And it's not that they've gotten split second angry. Again, this is about spiritual warfare, and I'm going to wrap this up, but this is the last thing I'm going to say. People who need to feed off of your energy have made their plans that they're going to abuse you and feed off of your energy until the day you die. When you have made up your mind that you are not staying in this abusive relationship, in their mind, they're looking at it that their life force is going to leave. So therefore, they make up their mind to end your life because they know that they don't understand. They don't know how long it's going to take to get into another relationship to abuse someone else and feed off of that other person's energy. We have to understand the importance of our spiritual vitality. There are some people here that is in the flesh, but they're not. Their spirit is not human. They have to consume the godlike energy. They look human, but their spirit is not human. So when you make up your mind to leave, their mind is made up that you're not going to live on without them. You're going to go. They're going to make sure and get you up out of here. They belong on a registry. I wholeheartedly believe that they belong on a registry. And I thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all stay safe. Love your family. If anyone has anything else to say before I check out.
I thank you for putting on this great show and this wonderful information. And they don't exist in my world. They need to be on that list.
Absolutely.
Well, I thank you for the topic. Like I said, it was tough. It was tough listening. The stats that you spit out, I don't know who compiled them. And science is the reason we don't know what we're eating. And I yield. But thank you.
You're welcome, Brother Joffrey. I agree that when you use science the wrong way, when you use it for maladaptive reasons, that's why we don't know what we're eating. But if you ask me, people like, I could say Jeff Bezos, but what's his name? Bill Gates, I guarantee you Bill Gates has a personality disorder, right? We have a lot of people in positions of power that have personality disorders that want to control masses of people. If you look at Black Mr. Putin shows up like someone that has a personality disorder. What's his name? Mr. Netanyahu over there in Israel. He has a personality disorder. A lot of people in positions of power want to rule over and lord over masses of people. Those are people that are showing signs of personality disorders, and yes, they will use science to make sure that they control the population of people.
Arlene.
Yes.
Beautiful show, sister. Beautiful show. Good think tank. And Brother Joffrey knows that the wrong science, as you stated, is what tends for man to pollute his earth, man and woman. All right. So so it's not just plain science like is a right and a wrong, as you stated, sister. And like I said, Brother Joffrey knows that. And your stats. What I think Joffrey was trying to ask you where your stats were coming from, your information, your resource. Where did you get your resource from? So this way you can get a better peace of mind.
The FBI releases, so it's from the FBI.gov website. and I went on Google. So, Google can give you stats, and the FBI.gov website has stats as well.
Right. Now, I know you do research, sister. Now, there's a sister that will be at the event, Roxanne. She actually is a member of the FBI, a friend of mine. So what we'll do is, so that Brother Joffrey knows that we're not just coming up here willy-nilly without information. What we'll do is I'll have Roxanne do some information. She'll do a fact check and have her give the FBI stats to make sure they corroborate with yours, because we all need a source of reference. And
Yes.
sister, I know you do the homework. So thank you for that. Brother Joffrey, thank you for inquiring, because we need people like you to come up here and ask the questions. But
Absolutely.
the sisters do our homework. All right, and I'll rest on that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brother Joffrey, and I want to thank you all for tuning in to this wonderful show. Wrapping up, Bill Graves comes on after me, and then Baba Joe comes on right after Bill Graves. Prior to me, we had Dr. Bell, which gives us that great old insight on how food actually can nourish the body or not nourish the body. Yesterday, we've had Cry No More with Sister Francesca. Don't forget that our third annual Dis-Ease Prevention Health Convention will be coming up this August, Saturday the 8th. I'm showing the flyer again because my screen is on. And again, thank you all for tuning in to this show. And we'll see you all next week. And tune in to Bill Graves. Thank you.